It's April 5th, 2015, and I'm talking about Chris Dabney. My dog was pawing at my computer. It got turned off. But what I was saying is that Chris Dabney raped me in the same manner that this person wanted supposedly my mom to pretend or act like she was getting raped or whatever. Or one of the Dixies. I don't know for sure if it was my mom, because some of the individuals, there's more than one Dixie, and I'm just not sure about all of it. But what that individual said when he was promising me that they were going to make sure that they raped me later to quote-unquote get revenge or punish me for whatever they were claiming that I did, as a kid who was being forced to do what they told me to do. He was saying it was for Kate Middleton. And I also know James Cartwright directly worked with Mike Middleton and was involved with the Middletons. And I just think it's really strange that such high-level individuals were repeatedly were repeatedly raping me and making comments about how this was for Middleton and Katie Middleton's going to be queen. I mean, why is the United States government so determined to have Kate Middleton be queen, unless she is CIA? And she is. I'm sorry, but, I'm not sorry. She works for the CIA. And she gets all kinds of information from the FBI, and she's had a lot of money laundered to her by the FBI and the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been working directly with the Middletons from day one. I know that they were trafficking the Bobs and Dixies back and forth to visit Kate Middleton and to be back and forth between me and her since she was born. And Carol and Mike Middleton were taking orders from the Pentagon and knowing when to pick me up so that I could be babysat, quote unquote, by them over in England for periods of time when I was a lot younger. So, as I've said, I don't think all of it is that they've done is about Kate Middleton. But when they were saying that I was going to be raped and that Katie Middleton was going to be queen and everything, and I was just going to look like a floozy, and so on and so forth. They then enacted that whole thing against me using Chris Dabney. I got raped by Matt, the truck driver that the FBI contacted to have drive me out to the East Coast. Got raped by him under intimidation and threats that the government had programmed me with to have in the back of a semi. And I got raped by James Cartwright, and then Chris Dabney was using the same techniques to then have me think that I could trust him and then to rape me, while they all knew that I didn't recognize them or know that they were carrying out these government hits against me. And so when I say I'm mentioning all that because when I say that I was shocked, by that time I wasn't really even myself anymore, to the point that I was just dazed and shocked by what was happening to me, what the government had done when I was a little girl, because they would rape me so many times that after a while I just expect to be raped and have to pretend like I was going along with it, and it wasn't even a big deal. And they were torturing me, like I said, death threats, that one of these days we are going to kill you. I remember a couple of times I said, just go ahead and do it. I just don't even care anymore. I said that one time in Moses Lake, Washington, and Forrest Tanzer was there. And I said, so go ahead. So go ahead and shoot me in the head, because I don't want to live anymore anyway. But instead, the United States government wanted to keep me alive so that they could keep raping me. and stealing from me. So they basically held me hostage to just write song after songs that they could steal from me and get other fucked up United States citizens who have no problem with government slavery and a slave system that the United States government has enacted and reinstituted. They decided they were going to perform my songs and lie and say that they wrote them. So the United States basically wanted to torture me to the point of not wanting to live anymore. But then they forced me to live just so that they could keep extorting, committing extortion, kidnapping babies from me. And I've never had any of my babies so that someone could take them from me. I would have never had any babies if I had known that every single time the United States government was going to kidnap my babies from me. Because I don't have babies to have other assholes raise them. I'm the person who can raise a child and who has demonstrated that I have raised other people's kids. And there's nothing wrong with me. And this government instead steals my kids from me because they think that they're going to be money makers, like maybe like I was for them. They want to hold all of them hostage, all of us. So, so these individuals, Chris Dabney and Matt, or Mark. I said Matt, but I mean Mark. Mark, the truck driver. I don't know why I said Matt. But, Mark, was the guy that the FBI actually had, contacted when I was in New Mexico, and they had him pick me up, and then he carried out the same kinds of, pressures so that I would be raped in the semi-truck. And so after all of that, I was sort of dazed. I didn't have any other place to go. I was waiting for some mail from the CPS in Washington, so I was going to try to appeal things. CPS in Washington refused to mail me the documents they were supposed to mail me in time, so that I deliberately could not meet the deadline for filing a notice of appeal to my case for my son. So there was an extremely important deadline that I had to make, and I needed the court records for it, and they refused to send them to me, even though they knew I was considered to be pro se at that time. And I didn't know where else I could collect my mail, so by the time I was at the one place, the U.S. Navy place, when I was waiting for that Navy guy's place, when I was waiting for the mail to arrive, and I waited for a couple of weeks there, and DHS and CPS didn't send me anything like they were supposed to. And then they lied and claimed that they tried, and they didn't. They didn't try to send me anything. And then when I was over at Dabney's house, I didn't have another place to go. And so he raped me the first time, and then he said, now you can stay with me at my house in my room or whatever, and my housemates won't mind. So basically he raped me, and then he wanted me to go with him to his house to make it look like, well, I really didn't mind being raped, because obviously if I'd been raped, why was I going to live with him at his house? When the truth was, I was in such shock, I wasn't processing everything. I hadn't connected the fact that he's the government asshole who's carried out a premeditated government rape hit against me. And I hadn't remembered the whole setup when I was a preteen with someone telling me that that's what they were going to do to me in the future. And by that time I was in a state of denial, trying to deny that I was actually raped, and trying to forget about it, and already in this government mode that they had forced me to go into when I was a kid of, okay, I just have to pretend, just go along with them, don't get anyone mad, and pretend like it never happened. And so that's what I was doing. And then went to his, so then I was staying in his bedroom, and he basically, you know, I was not an experienced drinker, and they drank on the job, and also had me try out drinks as part of my work, and offered drinks and that kind of thing there. And when I hadn't been drinking at all, because I didn't drink when I was with my son, I had like a bottle of wine that lasted me months. One time when my son was like over a year old. So I didn't have any tolerance built up, and I wasn't a drinker. And when they were loading me with drinks, and then I was having to go home with Chris Dabney, because I didn't have a place anywhere else to go. And I was basically stuck with having to work, and then looking for lawyers all day, which is how I spent my free time. All of my free time was devoted towards trying to get help for my son and trying to comply with court orders so that I could try to exonerate myself on a psychological evaluation to show that I wasn't some crazy delusional psychotic person who couldn't work or function, or raise a kid. And here I had been a nanny for all of these government people, and I did care for all their kids. I mean, I cared about their kids, and I loved their kids. I didn't have any weird motive for being a nanny, and I didn't ever have any grudges towards any of the kids. I truly cared about them and about their best interests and their well-being, and I did the best that I could for all of the kids that I worked for as a nanny. And I truly did love them. I'm not going to say that I loved the parents and everything the parents did, but I cared about the kids. And after all of that, the government just used me, and then they have me raped from one state to the next, and and so here I was trying to show that yes, there was no problem with my raising and caring for children, obviously my own kids, and that I was being tortured. I'd gone out to the East Coast initially because I wanted to get some medical evidence that would prove that I had been tortured and that I had evidence in my body of technology torture that changed the DNA expression in blood and some other things that you could actually have diagnosed, literally. So my motive was to go out there. When I finally went to the hospital to find out if they would do that kind of evaluation, because I wanted to have it done, they then told me they wouldn't even talk to me. So I went all the way out there thinking that maybe someone would help me, and then I realized, oh, it's a military-based hospital. So, of course the military-based hospital, same military that's torturing me, is not going to give me the evaluations I need to prove that I was being tortured. The only place that said they would do it besides them was France, and I didn't have money to go to France. So then so I was basically every single night, anytime that Chris Dabney ever had sex with me, I was incapacitated. There wasn't a time ever that I was not completely drunk. And at some point, I had tried to deny anything happened. I didn't really realize that he had totally, completely raped me, and it was a premeditated rape. I hadn't processed all the facts of which group he was with, and who he was organized with, and what his motives might have been. So I tried to deny it, and at some point I think I developed a false bond to him, to the rapist, and it became more of a consensual thing. But that did not diminish the fact that he is a rapist. But it means that I started to bond to a rapist. And I felt, anyway, basically like I was sort of forced to, and then I became pregnant by him. So then I was pregnant, and I did want the baby. I didn't want him involved, though, and he tried to be part of it, and I didn't want him to be part of it. I didn't want him going with me to medical appointments. And when the government saw that I didn't want him going with me to medical appointments, I think they got nervous that I was going to bring up a rape claim and try to keep him out of it, and keep him from getting custody of the kid that maybe the government wanted to use for government reasons. And so then the government, after I was pregnant for 3 months, murdered my baby. And prior to murdering my baby, they had Chris Dabney and all of the government people that worked at the Post Pub, who are all government operatives, they had them kick me out of work, fire me while I was pregnant, so that I would have no place to go, no money, and no work. I mean, if I had work, if they hadn't fired me, there's no reason why I couldn't start making more money, because I had some things that I would pay for, which were expenses. But if so if I had money, I could obviously keep trying to save up and have enough to be independent and do something for myself. I did get to the point where I was paying for my own apartment, so I was paying for my own room and apartment and everything every night, or every day, and paying for my own transportation, my own food. I was basically supporting myself, and they didn't want me to be supporting myself, because by that time the government decided, now we want to have her raped by Alvaro Pardo. And he is a Colombian, supposedly national, but he's also been working for the United States government for a very long time. I think he's more of a United States government national than he is a Colombian national. He was supposedly born in Bogota, Colombia, and lived there. And the thing is, I saw someone who looked exactly like him when I was a kid in Egypt. I mean, looked just like him. And he was Egyptian. He was like a Muslim guard of some kind in the Middle East. So a few times when I was around him later, Alvaro Pardo, I wasn't really sure if he was really from Colombia or if he was a Middle East Muslim that the government had been using for a long time. I mean, maybe he was from both places, but I did see him in someone who looked just like him in a different area. So I sometimes was sort of wondering, because at some point my memory was kind of refreshed about someone who did look like him. And so the next rape that occurred was deliberately strategized for, because they had me forced out of any kind of housing, and then they had this guy who worked for the Pentagon offer me a place to stay offer to pay for a hotel room in a certain location, and then at that location is where, or prior to my going to that location, they had some guy named Henry give me his phone number, saying, if you need any help or anything, just give me a call. So basically the government set me up again. They gave me one phone number of one person that I could call who said that he could try to help me if I needed anything. And then the government kicked me out onto the streets deliberately. So they knew that if they kicked me out onto the streets, what was I going to do but possibly call that phone number that had been given to me by their government operative, Henry. And so they put me in a hotel by one Pentagon person, and then waited for me to make a phone call to their other operative who said that he could help me, and then it was through him that I was then introduced to Alvaro Pardo, who the government wanted to have rape me next.